Hello and welcome. This is another Confessions podcast from BBC Radio 2. Would you like a new jingle? I tell you what, I suspect you probably would. Here's a little fanfare to announce the fact that we're here. How about that? Also, our favourite three-worder.
Susanna.
Yeah?
Still ironing.
Very good. And then also, Bertie sang this. You can see him on Facebook.
I'm Simon Mayo. Eddie at the 90 and to want her friend.
Yeah.
BBC Radio 2.
That's us. Anyway, so this Confessions podcast, then this week we had these stories. Rip It Up and Start Again. Billy, Don't Be a Hero. Balls of Confusion and I'm Your Puppet. Here they all come. Dear Father Simon and the most forgiving collective, I seek your forgiveness for an instance of what might be deemed an extreme case of disrespect and tomfoolery at one of life's most solemn occasions, namely a funeral. During the late 90s, I was midway through my career as a fireman in a northeastern fire brigade. As was usual in those days, and due to pretty mediocre wages, a small but growing family and a huge mortgage, I was partaking in a variety of part-time jobs in an effort to keep the wolves from the door. Amongst the jobs I had were such diverse occupations as wine waiter, window cleaner, deliverer of pies, mobile disco DJ, and finally a driver of funeral limousines and coffin bearer.
That's impressive.
There's quite a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I reckon, Ian, you probably got quite a few confessions from each of those. I could just go on, give us a mobile disco DJ confession, and you'll have them. Anyway, we're concentrating on the coffin bearer here. The advantage that we had as firemen was that we were issued with a dour dress uniform which consisted of a black blazer and trousers, black socks and shoes, and even a black tie. This, of course, lent itself to an easy conversion to a perfectly good funeral assistant suit, only requiring the removal of the chrome fire brigade buttons. The quality of the supplied uniform was of dubious quality, being of government issue, a factor that, as you will see, had a marked effect on proceedings. On the day in question, we were attending a funeral in an old terraced house, typical of an old mining town. The house was a bit on the small side, and as we entered, we saw that the downstairs rooms and hallway were packed with family members and mourners. The funeral director introduced himself and attempted to guide everyone into the living room, while myself and my fellow fireman, assistant, let's call him Dave, were directed upstairs to bring down the coffin to the hearse. So we found ourselves faced with an impossibly steep and narrow staircase, which leads to the bedroom containing the coffin. Once in the room upstairs, we found the open coffin containing the nattily dressed deceased gentleman, all ready to go for his final dignified journey. Once the lid was screwed down, myself and Dave quickly decided how we were going to negotiate getting the coffin down the stairs. We decided that we would have to stand the coffin up on end and manhandle it around the turn at the head of the stairs in the style of removal men moving a wardrobe before we could finally pick it up and carefully walk back down the stairs. There's nothing that can go wrong at this stage. Now, this is not the most graceful way to begin your final journey, but unfortunately it was necessary. This, Father Simon, is where our problems began. Having walked the coffin through the bedroom door and to the head of the stairs, like an old wardrobe on moving day, it was now my job to bend down and get hold of the foot end of the coffin and lift it to a horizontal position for the final walk downstairs.
Okay, we've all got in our heads something that's going to happen right now.
Well, maybe you haven't got this. I bent to take the strain, and to my horror, there was an enormous ripping sound as my shoddily made government-issue trousers split from crotch to belt loops. Only the addition of some comedy polka dot underpants could have made things worse. My initial horror was quickly superseded by an inane laughing fit at the absurdity of the situation. I dissolved into a fit of giggles. I suppose, in the parlance of the entertainment industry, I had definitely corpsed. And it was only with a superhuman effort that we manhandled the coffin back into the bedroom whilst I attempted to compose myself. My mate Dave was surprisingly annoyed at my inability to compose myself, which was strange as he was usually up for a bit of hijinks and japes, but he obviously had his sensible head on that day. A chance, Simon, for you to now do your Geordie accent.
Oh, excellent!
Go on,
yes,
then.
please.
Away, man, he hissed. Pull yourself together. I always thought it was not worth it. Yeah. I know you couldn't tell, but I just thought,
like
let's not go with that. With a Herculean effort, I managed to sort myself out. Once again, we manhandled the coffin to the head of the stairs, me with my giggling fit barely suppressed, and Dave with a face like thunder. Due to my clothing malfunction, we had changed position, so I was now at the head end whilst Dave took the foot end. At the head of the stairs, Dave went down to take the strain, and then, amazingly, rip. Dave's trousers split from north to south. That was it. I was gone completely. It took me many minutes, but eventually I felt I could make it downstairs without dropping the coffin or giving myself a hernia. But I was almost beside myself. It's perhaps worth pointing out, Father Simon, I am a silent laugher. The problem with this is that because not much sound comes out, the internal pressure needs another release valve. Not that one. For me, because I know what you're thinking. That manifests itself through tears of laughter. And so it was that we eventually got to the bottom of the stairs and the gathering crowd, Dave with a face that could have curdled milk, me with tears streaming down my face. Some of the family gave me pats on the back, obviously thinking I was sharing their grief, while the funeral director gave me a raised eyebrow that spoke of questions to be asked on the return to the funeral parlour. We managed to load the coffin into the hearse without any further drama, or indeed without anyone noticing our rather dishevelled appearance, as we both now had ripped our trousers. So, Father Simon and the Very Forgiving Collective, we need forgiveness for laughing during what was probably one of the saddest days in the lives of the assembled crowd, but I also seek forgiveness for damaging Fire Brigade property with my manly buttocks. And causing Dave to do the same. Well, Ian the ex-fireman, thank you very much. Still, when he stopped being a fireman, at least he had a raft of jobs that he could choose from. My goodness. I don't think we've had the phrase manly buttocks included in a confession before. Anyway, Sister Bobby, what do you make of that then?
First of all, Ian, you said actually the problem was the inferior material, when actually it was your manly buttocks that caused the problem. So a combination of both. It's really difficult in those situations because I think it's one of our best actually attributes that as humans we can laugh, in the most difficult situations. Usually our own though, not other people. So it's really difficult. Also, I'm a terrible laugher in most serious situations. I cannot move furniture without dissolving into tears, and there's been many a family wardrobe mishap with me being on the floor and stuck under things because I've just give it away. Anyway,
right?
so I feel for you because I do exactly the same in serious situations. The most important thing is actually you got it together before you got downstairs. So I can imagine the hiccups, but the family weren't offended. They didn't know.
That's true.
You managed to obviously hide your modesty in some way. I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, no one noticed.
And also, nothing really went wrong. So I think well done to you two, especially to Dave, for putting it together and getting it together for the family. You're forgiven.
What do you say, Brother Matthew?
So obviously there is a problem with these trousers in that you can't bend down in these trousers.
Comedy trousers.
Can't bend down in the trousers because they will rip. And,
But you would think if you're a fire person, if you're a firefighter, you'd...
But obviously these are not the trousers they wear
dress
when they're going
trousers,
off
yeah.
fighting fires. These are the trousers they wear when they're hanging out.
in relaxed firemen's bars.
Absolutely, that's what they were. But obviously the blame in this particular case lies with whoever's decision it was to have the coffin upstairs. Who puts the coffin upstairs? It's been down. If we're going to we have to bring him down and we're going to have to manoeuvre him like a wardrobe. No, you have the coffin downstairs. That makes perfect sense. I've never heard of a coffin being kept upstairs. So I'm definitely going to forgive because it was in the wrong room, and that's that very much.
So
reasonable.
it's the grieving family's fault.
Yes, I am blaming the grieving family for everything that's gone wrong.
All right. Now, the thing about this confession is, I think that sometimes you read them out and you might think, yeah, I think I would probably have done the same. I understand. I would have reacted in those circumstances. I'd have reacted in the same way. This is not one of those. This is not one of those
My
confessions.
favourite, yes, very good.
Well, there's one line in it which will stand out a mile where you go, you did what? Okay. Father Simon, says Kim, it's the mid-1970s and I was working for a well-known plumbing and heating company in Malden in Essex. One late afternoon, the workforce were all knocking off for the day. This involved locking sheds and vehicles, and eventually the last one out locked the yard gate. That's the way it happened, day after day, week after week. But before we could complete the locking up, a goat appeared from one of the sheds, running at full speed, and before we could react, it had butted one of my workmates, ironically, in the butt. After several more charges, avoidance tactics were employed. Can I just say this is the first appearance of a goat in a confession for a very, very long time, for many years. After several more charges, avoidance tactics were employed and the goat was caught. It conveniently had a collar on, and so a rope lead was attached. However, the goat continued to rear up and tug back to get free. We were then faced with the problem of what to do with it next, because obviously we couldn't leave it in the yard all night, as there was nothing to eat or drink. And it was then that I had a bright idea.
Is this the line?
I decided I would take the goat home for the night.
Obviously. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, obviously, that's what anyone would do. I decided to take the goat home for a night because, says Kim, I was sure my wife and the kids would like to see it. And then I'd take it back in the morning to find the owner. At this point, I must tell you that I had been entrusted with the company's newest van. And being the newest van in the fleet, this made me very proud indeed. And so it came to pass that myself and a workmate wrestled the goat, we're going to call him Billy, obviously, into the back of the van and tied him securely to the side, and I set off for the 4-mile journey home. You would think at some stage in this, trying to get Billy into the van, you're going to go, this is a really, really stupid idea. It was now that I became aware of the strong smell of goat in the small space of the vehicle. I can only describe the smell as pungent and heavy, displacing all oxygen in the van. I was also concerned when I heard water running.
Oh, good.
One point in the journey, he was having a wee. I hoped that it would just be a small one, but it went on and on and on. I swear it must have lasted half a mile. Look at the state of that. Half a mile of it.
Oh, dear.
So now the initial smell of Billy was joined by a warm, damp atmosphere, so thick it was almost suffocating. Arriving home, I tied Billy up at the bottom of the garden. What a ridiculous thing, Kim! And I mopped the van out. However, my family didn't seem that interested in their new stinking pet for the night, probably due to the fact that he was trying to butt them rather than let it be stroked. Isn't that funny that, a wild goat that's attacked your workmate and then put in a van
Funny how that
tries to attack your family? So fed and watered, Billy was left for the night, and in the morning he was wrestled back into the van and driven back to the yard. Kim, really? Thankfully, there was no wee this time, or anything else, and we got back to the yard. I unloaded Billy and I walked him up the road adjacent to where I was working. He was bucking and tugging as we went. Funny that. I then proceeded to knock on doors, and I said, "Do you know this goat?"
This is a joke. This is the start of it.
It's not. There are some gag answers, I'm sure. And do you know who owns it? However, the answer was always no. After about 20 minutes of this, I was aware that I was getting late for work and I needed to find a home for Billy quite soon. It's fair to say the novelty of looking after a goat was quickly wearing thin. After what seemed like a million doors and a million no's, I knocked on this one door and there was no answer. I waited and knocked again. It soon became clear that there was no one home. Well, I reckon he lives here then. I reasoned. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
So I tied Billy to the back door and I walked down the garden path and went to work. I'm sure you've acted responsibly all the way through this. It's at this point I have to ask for forgiveness. Firstly, to the other plumbers who shared the van and had to endure eau de goat for some days to come. Secondly, to the homeowner from Tenterfield Road who arrived home to find that they had a new pet and that they couldn't get out of their back door or into the garden. Thirdly, to Billy, who might feel just a little annoyed, but he did find a lovely new home. Well, most bizarre behaviour there, Kim. I mean, you have to say, at no stage would anyone else in the world think, I know, I'm going to take the goat home and see what my family make of it. So anyway, interesting, very funny, sitcom style there from Kim. What do you say, Sister Bobby?
Well, we had a goat once under the stairs.
Oh, hang on a second. There's another line I never thought I'd hear. No, you didn't.
Yes, we did.
Well, that's not fair.
He was recovering from an injury.
Well, I'm not at all surprised.
So we put him under the stairs.
Is this a circus goat?
No, it was, unfortunately, it was going to be put down, so Mum saved it. And
How did she save the goat?
Well, it got attacked, you see, so we took it to the vets, and the vet said it needs to be supported on something while it gets its feelings back. So we brought it home, put it under the stairs, obviously in a space, made it like stable.
Where else would you
Because
put
it was the safest warm place while it recovered, and it did recover, learnt to walk again, and it was fine. But I wouldn't recommend it.
What was it called?
I can't remember what the goat was called, actually. Anyway, but what I was going to say was about
What
Kim.
kind of a goat was it?
It was a really big one.
Big
but
goat.
It wasn't a male one. They smell worse. It was a female goat. Anyway, moving on. I admired Kim for taking the goat home. But, of course, there are many national organisations and local ones that, of course, you could have called and done something else. But
Maybe not in the 70s.
So first, yes, there was. There was at least one. There was the...
Was there? The
Yeah,
National
the
Goat
RSPCA.
League.
You know, it's the RSPCA. Anyway, I admire you for taking responsibility and taking care of the goat. But it seems it ran out because you took it home, made sure it was okay. Then you put it back in the van and took it back to where it came from. But then you left it tied to somebody else's house.
Yes, that's right.
That's the thing. You just go, you were so forgiven until that point.
Yeah. It could have been the right house. It could have been the right house. They were just out getting some straw and some carrots.
Looking for their
or
goat.
whatever it is.
So Kim, because you were doing so well, but in the end, no, you're not forgiven.
Brother Matthew.
Well, I mean, what this boils down to is Kim is basically moving a goat around because we don't know how this goat turns up at his yard.
No.
And then he says, well, I can't leave the goat overnight at the yard because there's no shelter and there's no food, so I'll take it home with me where I will put it in the garden. And no shelter in the garden, and am I feeding? No, I'm not feeding it because it's butting me all the time. And then I'm just going to go and leave it with some person who's not in, and therefore is fully qualified to look after goats. So I'm not going to forget. I don't understand where you thought any of this was a good idea. So I'm not going to forgive.
Dear Father Simon and your gorgeous collective, I wish to beg forgiveness for an incident that occurred nearly 30 years ago when I was around 12 or 13. My stepfather, let's call him John, had questionable taste in many things. His baby blue chinos and mustard slacks were among his many poor choices. Let's just think about that for a moment. Baby blue And furniture was no exception. John owned a very large brown corduroy beanbag that my mother hated, but he refused to let her throw it away. It rustled loudly when we sat on it, and was so huge and well stuffed that once you did sit on it, escape was almost impossible. I think most houses either have or used to have one of these beanbags. This one would envelop you in its corduroy folds and refuse to let you go until you upended yourself unceremoniously on the floor and crawled to safety. Although it was an undeniably ugly and somewhat aggressive piece of furniture, one day when I was alone and bored in the house, I discovered a new and exciting use for it. I found that when I unzipped it, it was filled with tiny white polystyrene balls that created a brilliant makeshift lucky dip. I had lots of fun putting hairbrushes and various household items and foodstuffs in there and trying to find them again. Some came out. A few got lost. I never thought of it as a lucky dip, but actually, now you come to think about it, you don't need a brand tub, do you? You just need a big beanbag stuffed full of polystyrene balls. After many happy minutes of happy dipping fun, I decided to up the ante and make the game a little more challenging. I reckoned that a coin would prove to be far tougher to find in there. I didn't actually have any coins of my own, so I borrowed a £1 coin from my mum's purse to throw in. However, the challenge proved tougher than expected, and I was unable to locate it despite my best efforts. In my childish logic, I decided to take another coin from my mum's purse and throw that one in and follow its trajectory down, believing it would lead me to the first coin. And so on. Well, this plan failed, and the second coin went the same way as the first. There were now 2 lost coins in there. In my panic, I knew there was only one option. I emptied the entire contents of the beanbag onto my living room floor. Spectacular. It's fair to say, Father Simon, I was rather surprised by the sheer quantity of those tiny little white balls. Oh, how they bounced into every nook and cranny and stuck to everything. Still undeterred, I began to wade through the sea of white in search of the elusive coins. The living room now looked like a winter wonderland, but I couldn't stop to appreciate its majestic beauty. I had lost money to find. To my bewilderment, however, I still wasn't able to locate the coins. I did find a sausage, a plastic elephant, and a Finder's crispy pancake, which I'd forgotten all about. Realising my parents would be... What were they in there for? What kind of a lucky dip is that? Realising my parents would be home soon, I set about shoveling the mountains of white stuff back into the small opening of the brown corduroy bag, which proved somewhat tricky, as the bulls were reluctant to return to their home after such a bouncy adventure. I do believe they might have been possessed of the devil. I think that's always quite a useful thing to do. If something is a little bit out of control, you can just blame it on demonic forces.
Yeah.
Remember that one, Bobby, when things aren't going so well.
I've had similar experiences, really.
I managed to get what looked like a decent amount back, and I hoovered up the rest, and I put everything back in place and welcomed my parents back on their return. I never spoke of this to a soul, but the guilt has stayed with me. So I need forgiveness from my mother, who not only lost £2 from her purse, money which must have simply disappeared forever into a parallel vortex. It's the only logical explanation I can find. But who, for weeks afterwards, complained about finding tiny polystyrene balls everywhere, and wondered how a crispy pancake came to be under the armchair. Most of all, I seek forgiveness from my now late stepfather John, whose beloved 70s brown corduroy beanbag became a sad shadow of its former self overnight, suddenly and inexplicably resembling a deflated brown balloon, no longer enveloped anyone in its retro folds, and was sent to the tip not long after, much to my mother's relief. I've avoided lucky dips and coin stealing ever since, but I now throw myself at your mercy. Kim on the Wirral. I think a lot of people are going to go along with this because everyone's got that beanbag. They've all unzipped it and had a look. A lot of those polystyrene balls haven't got anywhere. What Kim has done quite cleverly is turned it into a piece of entertainment and had a lucky dip. Think of the hours of fun that you get on it. The next rainy day, think of putting... I don't know whether this is safe to recommend.
Yeah.
Unzip the beanbag and hide items in there. Maybe you could put your grandma in, see what happens. What do you think, Sister Bobby?
Well, I think maybe the zip is never really wide enough for a person, but don't try it. We've got several of these bean bags that we used for the dog, and then you have to wash it, you see, so you have to empty all the little polystyrene balls.
You put the dog in it?
No, but the whole thing of emptying the balls into something similar receptacle, washing the cover, then trying to get them all back in again. And, of course, the bean bag over time has got smaller and smaller because, of course, the polystyrene balls
You're
don't
washing
ever
the
make...
bean bag?
Well, yeah, you take the balls out and then you put the cover in the washing machine. It's not so rare.
Is that because that you put... So the dog...
The dog is nowhere near the beanbag during the washing process.
So is that the only reason you're washing a beanbag? Is because there's been a dog on it?
Dog
because
stains.
the dog uses it. Well, usually it's the bed, so, they don't... So anyway, moving on from this. What I'm surprised about is your mum didn't notice that money had gone missing, and she didn't, accuse her children of who stole all my money. So she was a lovely mum, a very trusting mum, that you got away with it. Well,
maybe they were unbelievably affluent, and they didn't notice the money going.
The pound. Yeah, you're right. It's very good of a mum to not think the worst of you. So that's lovely of your mum, Kim. That's really great. I think this is a great game, actually. I'm not sure about the pancakes. You can get them anymore. But I think it's a great idea for me to hide my sister's stuff in the
Just
dog's
hide your sister.
beanbag.
Put your sister in there.
She won't fit. I think, Kim, I can forgive you because
Okay.
you amused yourself.
Brother Matthew.
I've always had a lesson in life, which is if you want to be absolutely sure of not impressing a prospective partner, make sure they're in the room with you when you try and get up out of a beanbag, because no one looks good then. No one looks particularly attractive getting up out of them, crunching up everywhere, and things going where they shouldn't. So I am going to forgive because, you've got to find something to do with a beanbag. Mine...
Can you still get them?
Well, no, because ours has gone missing, by which I mean, obviously, it's been thrown out, not by me.
I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, I don't know who could possibly have access to the bin and the beanbag and have chucked it in the bin. Who'd have thought? Disgraceful.
Oh, it's good to know that you're not in charge of your own house.
No.
Dear Father Simon and your gorgeous collective, anyone who has a younger brother will understand this following confession. Where do you sit in the pecking order? I can't remember.
I'm eldest, and he's the youngest.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Bobby, where are you?
I am fourth, second down.
Yeah.
Second down of 5, and
Three
he
across.
is the youngest.
All right. Nige, where are you?
Yeah, youngest of 3.
Okay. So that's the family setup. Many moons ago, says Ashley, my grandmother gave my younger brother a puppet for Christmas. It was no ordinary puppet, but it was a bird called Emu. Yes, we who remember Rod Hull and Emu also remember the bird's antics. Oh, what fun the blue and yellow thing was. Just ask Michael Parkinson, he'll tell you. For younger listeners, check it out on YouTube. Very funny. Whatever possessed my grandmother, who knows? Maybe it was the gin. But from day one, the gift from hell reigned supreme. My younger brother wasted no time and stuck his hand into the puppet, and as if by magic, our family emu was born. Oh, how we loved that emu not. From day one, my sweet little brother wasted no time pinching people or giving people a particularly annoying Big Daddy wrestling manoeuvre. This was a particular favourite with my cousin, who my brother, at every available opportunity, would launch the B-Cat. Stop it! Cousin Helen would say, get off! My brother would then proclaim in all innocence, it's not me, it's Emu. I've told him to behave, but he's not having it. I'll stuff it with Paxo if it comes near me again, says my cousin, understandably. Emu soon became an increasing annoyance, and my brother's arm had a life of its own with a blue and yellow cushion pretending to be a bird. One morning I sneaked out of the house and threw it in a tree. Well, it was annoying. Where's Emu, Mum? Said my little brother. Have you seen it, Mum? Have you seen it? Mum said, looking at me with mum eyes. We've all seen those. Where is it? With that scowl from my mum, I easily gave in and confessed. He's in the tree. Look, I pointed. He's nesting. He's nesting. My mum burst out laughing. My brother didn't find it funny and launched himself at me. Cut it out, you two. Give him back his emu, Ashley. So Emu was retrieved, but his antics resumed. It was the start of the school holidays and I got up early to get Emu. I popped outside and opened the back door of the car and wound down the window slightly. I placed the beak into the gap and closed the window and shut the car door, sniggering with glee. My brother ran down the stairs in his gym jams. Where's Emu? I suggested he might have a bath or a breakfast or gone shopping, but my brother wasn't having any of it. As we were arguing, Dad passed, kissed us on our heads. I'm off to work now. Was my fatherly voice. I'm off to work now, boys. My brother then looked aghast as he saw Dad leave the drive with Emu swinging from the rear car door window. I was in hysterics, but my brother soon started the tears. My mum tried to conceal her laughter and tried to console my bro. Emu's gone to work with Daddy. He'll take good care of him. Emu wanted to meet Daddy's work colleagues, that's all. The absurdity of my dad taking Emu into the office made me laugh so uncontrollably, it was winding my little brother up even more. The more I laughed, the angrier he got. My brother then shouted, I want Emu! The sulk had begun and Mum was not pleased with me. These were the days when there were no mobiles, so my mother phoned my dad's secretary to explain and leave a message. The whole office was outside waiting for Dad as the hilarious scene of my dad arriving with an Emu puppet in the car window happened. After a quick conversation, my dad returned home to drop off Emu. I was not popular with either Mum or Dad. Triumphant, my brother said, Are you okay, Emu? I'll be having words with you, son, when I get home, Dad muttered to me, as they did in the 70s. He left for work again, and that was it. I decided Emu's days were numbered. He was to be eliminated. Saturday came. We got up as usual. Mum and Dad left. See you later. Be good boys, Mum said in her innocence. Yes, Mum, I said with a Dick Dastardly grin. We will. Well, action stations. Call to arms. Keep brother occupied. Put Tiswas on. He'll like that. I say, do you think he's a bit grubby? He says, no. Maybe just a little wash, I suggest, would be in order. He'll look even better after that. OK, says distracted brother. Maybe just a gentle wash. He'll look fabulous. So he gives in. Into the kitchen, I went and shoved Emu into the washing machine. Boil wash, I select, engaging the switch to the hottest temperature of all time. Add some powder, close the door and switch on. And now I waited. Well, after the phantom flan flinger had finished, Tiswas reference, my brother runs into the kitchen, quickly scans the area and saw to his horror Emu going round and round and round in the washing machine with his head bobbing up and down. Switch it off, it's cruel, he squealed. I can't, Emu's doing the breaststroke, plus it's on a timer. timer. And once it started, has to carry on. I can't finish. Is he ready yet? No, he's not. 30 seconds later. Is he ready yet? No, he's not. Soon the spinner came on and Emu flew round faster and faster and faster. I couldn't help myself. I thought I would die laughing. My brother just stares at me. Eventually the time came when the lights changed and the click was heard, indicating the machine had finished. My brother could now open the door. Out came an emu. And I remember thinking, I don't remember it being that small. My brother was trying his hardest to get his hand and arm into Emu, but there was no joy. It was completely bust. Mission completed. I had shrunk Emu to a third of the size. My brother looked helplessly at me, the impossibility of it all, as I said, well, he is clean. Look how clean he is. But I had succeeded, and Emu was history. I don't ask for forgiveness from my younger brother, who is now a bearded toughie and will probably tough me up later, but rather supreme forgiveness from the stuffed birdie section of the RSPB. Well, I think a lot of this is going to depend on where you are in the family pecking order, I think, and whether you're prepared to put up with that kind of thing from your older brother, Sister Bobby.
Oh, well, yeah, I've had it on both sides. Actually, for a moment, I was with you, and it is annoying when you have little brothers doing all sorts of things. However, it was his favourite cuddly pet, and, you know, the respect for the cuddly pets at that age.
Except he clearly used this cuddly pet just to attack people.
Yes, well, you see, the thing is, what you could have done is you could have got Cuddles the monkey and then done a proper attack. That would be the way to kind of handle this properly, wouldn't it?
Who's Cuddles the monkey?
Do you remember? Orville's Cuddles the monkey. You get Cuddles the monkey, and then you've got an equal match. So you missed out on an opportunity then. You could have asked your grandma.
Well, a monkey beat an emu.
Oh, Cuddles the monkey could do emu any day. So I would say you ruined his lovely present from his grandma. And he was littler than you, so you have to be sympathetic. Not forgiven.
Novice?
Well, tricky, because I have 3 sons. I'm the youngest of 3. We currently have Hedgie, which is the youngest, but Hedgie doesn't go around prickling people.
What kind of animal? What kind of thing is
hedgehog?
Oh,
it's
okay.
a furry hedgehog. No, it's all right. It's a furry hedgehog.
We've also got giraffe. What kind of animal is that? Oh, it's a giraffe.
Possibly be.
I used to have Billy the Gonk. Billy would regularly be hung from a garret. So, yeah, that was...
Billy the what?
Hung from a...
Yeah, Billy the what?
Billy the Gonk.
A gonk.
Yeah, it was a big gonk, and it was the size of it was a bit like SpongeBob, you know, but big, size of a large family-sized box of cornflakes. Sprung to mind that image, and I think, yeah, by the sound of Ashley's brother was particularly annoying on a regular, ongoing basis, and eventually he extracted sweet revenge. So good on you, forgive him.
Forgive it. Okay, let's go for the casting vote.
Yeah, I mean, most right-minded people are obviously going to be with the younger sibling here being treated awfully by his older brother, but the fact is that being the older brother, and they always crack out the sulky card and they play it from the bottom of the pack. Oh, so life's so bad because you're being horrible to me. Well, actually, it's all about life, and you can't play the sulky card when you're in your 30s. So I am going to say forgiven, because, you know, someone's going to stand up for the ones that came first. Before you all got cute and everyone was indulging you with a present.
All right, that's fine. Okay. Well, they were this week's confessions, and I reckon you probably forgave Monday and Tuesday, not Wednesday and maybe Thursday. Your own dark secret, please, from the depths of your murky soul, on an email, confessions@bbc.co.uk. More in a week, and don't forget you can listen to all the best bits from the last 30 days on iPlayer. The last week has featured Maureen Lipman came in on Monday talking about her... Well, it's a strange book, really, but they're animal versions of celebrities. It's like a sketchbook. It's called It's a Jungle Out. It is a sketchbook. It's a Jungle Out There. Tuesday, it was a Tuesday, and if you go in for that, you'll find The Who, Rod Stewart, The Eagles, and Blue Nile. Wednesday, Joe Lycett was here talking about his unhelpful self-help book, which is called Parsnips Buttered, including the vital chapter, How to Stop Donald Trump. So thanks a lot for that, Joe. And on Thursday, Nige prepared spicy sausage and lentil bake with kale and pickled walnuts. All rather splendid. And if you got to this part of the podcast and you feel like tweeting me just to let me know, because I'm fairly certain most people have bailed out by now, if you just tweet Count Basie Orchestra on Triangle, that would be nice.